Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to go my review of the Great American Bash 1999. Starting off the evening, we'll go to our first match of the night. It is Brian Knobbs versus Hack in a hardcore matchup. I thought it was an okay match. Back and forth matchup between Brian Knobbs and Hack, with Knobbs hitting Hack with a trash can. Brian Knobbs was keeping the pace of the match, but Hack hits Brian Knobbs with a kendo stick, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Hack. Hats off to Hack for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Mikey Whipwreck versus Van Hammer. I thought it was an okay matchup. Van Hammer was keeping the pace of the match, with Van Hammer ultimately hitting the finish on Mikey Whipwreck. Pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Van Hammer. Hats off to Van Hammer for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Disco Inferno versus Bagwell. I thought it was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between Inferno and Bagwell, with Inferno keeping the pace of the match. But Bagwell hits his signature blockbuster off the top rope on Inferno, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Bagwell. Hats off to Bagwell for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is a tag team matchup. It is Konnan teaming up with Rey Mysterio versus Curt Hennig and Barry Duncum. I thought it was a good matchup. Konnan and Mysterio were keeping the pace of the match, with Barry Windham making his way out to the ring. Windham then attacks Konnan. A member of the Master P's entourage ends up attacking Barry Duncum, or Bobby Duncum, I should say. Ray then hits a slingshot leg drop on Duncum, pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are Konnan and Rey Mysterio. Hats off to Konnan and Rey Mysterio for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Ernest Miller versus Horace Hogan. I thought this was an awful match. Horace was keeping the pace of the match, but Ernest ends up hitting a super kick on Horace Hogan. Pins for the 3. And your winner of the match is Ernest Miller. Hats off to Ernest Miller for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Ric Flair versus Roddy Piper. I thought this was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Flair and Piper, with Piper keeping the pace of the match. Arn comes out to the ring to attack Piper. Bagwell is here as well. Bagwell tries to attack Flair. Piper then attacks Bagwell. Arn hits a spine buster, but Flair ultimately wins this match due to the help from Arn Anderson. Hats off to Ric Flair for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is a Falls Count Anywhere match. It is Rick Steiner versus Sting. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Rick and Sting, with Rick keeping the pace of the match. But Sting, Tank is here. Tank attacks Sting, and your winner of the match is Rick Steiner. Hats off to Rick Steiner for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the WCW Tag Team Championships. It is Kanyon and DDP versus Chris Benoit and Saturn. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with DDP and Bigelow hitting a double cutter, pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are DDP and Bam Bam Bigelow. Hats off to DDP and Bam Bam Bigelow for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of the Great American Bash 1999. It is Kevin Nash versus Randy Savage for the World Heavyweight Championship. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Nash and Randy Savage, with Nash keeping the pace of the match. Nash then hits a jackknife powerbomb on Randy. Sid Vicious is here. Sid Vicious then attacks Nash, and your winner of the match due to disqualification and still WCW World Heavyweight Champion is Kevin Nash. Hats off to Kevin Nash for getting the win in this matchup. A couple of things I'm going to say about the Great American Bash 1999 before I get out of here, man. Number one, this is a solid event. I'm not going to sit here and say it was the best event WCW ever put together, but it damn sure was not the worst. A couple matches on here that I actually enjoyed. Mikey Whipwreck versus Van Hammer was a decent match. Disco Inferno versus Bagwell was also a solid matchup. Konnan and Rey Mysterio versus Hennig and Barry Duncum was also a solid matchup as well. And obviously the main event, Kevin Nash versus Randy Savage in the main event. Solid matchup. And we get the debut of Sid Vicious making his WCW debut at the Great American Bash 1999. But just like I do with every single one of these pay-per-views, you guys know by now, I always give these pay-per-views a rating from 1 out of a 10. 1 being the absolute worst, 10 being the absolute best. I'm going to have to give Great American Bash 1999 a solid rating of a 4.5 at best. But this is my review of the Great American Bash 1999. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.